Hi, I'm calling in Thomas and Dexter Avenue North. I think somebody's dead.
So I believe it's going to be Carr versus Ped, and they're doing CPR. I'm sorry, Fire, I don't have more for you, but it just occurred, and I believe the officer's involved.
She was 26 anyway. She had limited value.
Were you aware that it was being recorded?
No, I was not.
When police received disturbing information in reference to a potential overdose, a race to the scene will trigger a sequence of shocking tragedies. On January 23, 2022, at 8 p.m., Seattle police dispatchers receive a call that will set in motion a night of both madness and scandal.
It's hard to think.
Okay, that happens. All right, well, just try to relax and think with me. Have you done cocaine before?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think you've overdosed on it?
I think so, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to get you some help, all right?
Okay.
So stand by.
Can I have your name, please?
No.
Just so we know who we're looking for. We're getting some assistance to you as quick as we can right now.
You can call me Alex.
Alex, did you want to give your last name?
No, I'm okay. I'm just kind of freaking out right now.
First responders and a medic team are quickly dispatched to Alex's location, 6th Street North, downtown. First en route is Officer Kevin Dave, who speeds into action in his single-officer cruiser. A fire and medical team prepare to meet him on 6th Street. Officer Dave swerves his police SUV through downtown traffic, flashing his lights and blasting his siren to warn oncoming traffic and pedestrians. In overdose cases, every moment counts. He's approaching the intersection of Dexter Street and Thomas Street, a two-lane road with a bike lane and a construction site obscuring a portion of the sidewalk from view. Officer Dave speeds through this 25-mile-per-hour zone when the catastrophic happens. Some of the following footage has been redacted out of respect for the victim.
Mary 2, started supervisor, start fire for a struck pedestrian.
Off-screen, Officer Dave quickly jumps out of his vehicle and dashes out into Dexter Street. Moments later, we hear the unmistakable sounds of emergency CPR. Tragically, a pedestrian had been struck.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Despite Dave's persistent CPR, the pedestrian remains unresponsive.
At 30, pause.
4, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
Up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You all right?
No, I'm not all right.
Dave soon notifies dispatch, and a squadron of police cruisers and ambulances descend on the scene to assist.
So someone's doing CPR, Dexter North and Thomas. I'm sorry, Fire, I don't have more for you, but it just occurred, and I believe the officer's involved.
So the officer may be involved.
The officer's not hurt, though.
By now, Alex has been given proper medical assistance, and all attention has shifted to the tragedy unfolding in downtown Seattle. Dispatchers are now receiving calls from eyewitnesses who will prove a crucial role in the investigation that will come later.
Was it like a vehicle hit a pedestrian? What happened?
Correct. They're doing a CPR right now. The person was crossing the road, and I think police were going fast, so they hit them.
Hold on.
I'm not sure if there's anything I need to do. There's 2 police officers here, and I think there's another one coming right now.
Officer Dave's colleagues comfort him as he describes what went down.
I was on the crosswalk. She saw me. She started running through the crosswalk. Slammed on my brakes. Instead of staying back where she should before crossing.
5, 6, 7.
The same cannot be said for the young woman lying unresponsive in the street, a 23-year-old grad student. Despite medics' best attempts, she passes away after being transported to the hospital.
Yeah, Dave, you okay? Physically?
No medical issue.
No medical issues.
Okay. I'm not going to ask any questions. I just don't want you to know that I'm here for you. That we're going to get you everything that you need. Okay. Okay.
Thanks, LT.
All right, man.
While the true intentions behind the officer's assertion that he won't ask questions is unknown, it's possible he's trying to protect Officer Dave. Clearly, body cameras are rolling and documenting the conversation. There are also labor and department policies involved in these types of situations. Some agencies won't allow a responding officer to question an involved officer and require an internal group or external law enforcement agency to do so. One important purpose of this type of policy is to maintain impartiality. Many police are represented by unions, and it's possible that it could be against union rules for officers to question each other without the presence of a union representative, counsel, or both. As stated, the specifics of this particular incident are unknown, and these are a few of the potential reasons the officer has stated that he won't question Officer Dave. Photos of the aftermath were taken, and evidence was tagged and inventoried. Officer Dave's cruiser, a Ford Police Interceptor, had sustained heavy damage to its front push bar, passenger side headlights, and minor cracks to its front windshield. Debris was scattered across the cold Seattle pavement. 2 AirPods were found, presumably ejected from the pedestrian's ears at the moment of contact. Body cam footage from Officer Dave's cruiser was inventoried and sent to the police archive to be reviewed during a pending internal investigation. Another police body cam would later elevate this freak accident to the level of international scandal. Several witnesses later told what they saw from where they stood on the sidewalk that fateful night.
I was trailing behind them. We changed sides of the street to avoid a construction zone. They were ahead of me. They were crossing the street. We heard a siren. I heard a siren. I would presume the pedestrian also heard a siren. I observed them beginning to run, presumably to exit the roadway as they heard a siren approaching. And then I heard a loud thump, and I observed the police officer come to a halt. I was not far behind them, so I was coming into view of Dexter Street.
It was very quick.
You saw the collision. What happened after that?
So that person kind of got kicked by the car into the air, and they flew in the air about 10 meters in the northbound direction.
Certain factors were suspected to have contributed to the deadly collision. A construction site leading up the east of Dexter Street significantly obscured driver vision, and a partly see-through metal chain fence led out to the edge of the road. Orange construction barricades also partially obstructed view of the intersection from afar. The pedestrian was evidently already walking outside the crosswalk when Officer Dave began to approach in his cruiser. She was possibly wearing AirPods that could have made hearing police sirens difficult. Later analysis of the footage revealed that Officer Dave had performed proper collision avoidance, braking, and emergency steering to the center of the street. He'd initiated his siren appropriately moments before the collision. Unfortunately, the Ford Cruiser was too powerful to be slowed by a short period of braking, and the steering didn't effectively change the direction. Officer Dave is sent to the West Precinct and is met by Officer Daniel Otterer from the DUI squad, whose duties include investigating drivers for signs of impairment. It's protocol to have drivers evaluated in serious injury or fatality collisions. After completing his testing of Officer Dave, Officer Otterer concludes that Dave has exhibited no signs of impairment and is safe to operate a motor vehicle. Weeks later, police archivists were routinely going over body cam footage to prepare for internal review and analysis. In the process, they stumbled on a potentially problematic piece of audio captured by Officer Otterer's body cam immediately following his session with Officer Dave. The body cam had recorded Officer Otterer's side of a phone conversation with Mike Solon, the president of the Seattle Police Officers Guild.
Yep, totally. All right, brother. Well, yep. I'm sure TCIS is. And he was good. He says, well, normally we don't give voluntary statements. And I said, hey, you're going to have to decide if you wanted to give a statement or not. But it does not seem like there's a criminal investigation going on. Yeah, I mean, he's going 50. That's not out of control. That's not reckless for a trained driver. Yeah, lights and sirens. Yeah, well, there's some. Initially, he said she was in a crosswalk. There's a witness that says no, she wasn't.
Unfortunately, witness statements aren't always reliable. Clearly, the victim was in the crosswalk at the time of impact.
But that witness could be different because I don't think she was thrown 40 feet either. I think she went up on the hood, hit the windshield, Then when he hit the brakes, flew off the car. But she is dead. No, it's a regular person. Yeah. Yeah, just write a check. Just, yeah, $11,000. She was 26 anyway. She had limited value.
Apparently, Daniel was unaware that his body cam was still recording. Through extensive police analysis, it was determined that Officer Dave had been going upwards of 70 miles per hour and that the pedestrian had been flung nearly 140 feet. The body cam video was brought to light, allegedly by a leak to the media, and complaints from outraged citizens began pouring in. It turns out that Daniel Otterer's duties went beyond those of the DUI force. He also served as vice president for the Seattle Police Officers Guild. With pressure mounting, the Police Officers Guild issued a press release addressing the alleged misconduct. In it, they claimed that Officer Otterer's comments had been taken out of context. Within days, the Office of Police Accountability had received a complaint that alleged Officer Otterer had violated department policy. Officer Otterer initially requested a rapid adjudication, a mechanism of the police bureaucracy that would waive a full investigation in exchange for minor discipline, but his request was denied. Officer Otterer and Union President Solon were both promptly brought in to give official statements. They were interviewed by Sergeant Corey George of Seattle's Office of Police Accountability, a police task force that works to ensure professionalism and safeguard against unethical or inappropriate police behavior.
Your body-worn video captured a conversation between yourself and Officer Solon. Can you explain the content and context of the phone call?
I was finished and I was heading home, and we were talking about, because I had very limited information on scene, so I was telling what I kind of knew at the time, and those details always change during the course of an investigation. Officer Solon was talking about what could anybody do? What can anybody say about this? And that was kind of the context of the conversation. I remember earlier in the conversation where we spoke about, boy, it never stops. It's always something happening. We were talking about that. And then this was a conversation about maybe things we knew at the time, and then this is awful. What can attorneys possibly say about that? And that was the end of the conversation.
Were you aware that it was being recorded?
No, I was not.
It has been alleged that you violated SPD Policy Manual Section 5.001, Standards and Duties, subsection 10, employees shall strive to be professional. What is your understanding of this policy section?
I understand it very well. You don't want to do anything that could potentially diminish trust in the police department, cast doubt on an investigation, or cause a problem where the police department might have to explain something.
Do you believe that you violated this policy?
I did not violate that policy. It was a private conversation in a car alone that just happened to be recorded by my camera turning on, probably when I made a U-turn, or another car could have simply passed by.
Next came Mike Solon, Daniel's boss and good friend.
At one point, Officer Otterer says she's dead and begins laughing shortly thereafter. Do you recall what you said to Officer Otterer to make him laugh?
I remarked on how he commented on how fast the officer was traveling and how she unfortunately was struck by the police vehicle and how that she hit the windshield of the vehicle. And I was remarking that she was more than likely dead instantly, which was a tragedy. And I said that the city is going to have to pay out a lot of money on this one. And that was the context of the conversation.
At one point, Officer Otterer mentions just write a check. Then he laughs for a few seconds and says $11,000. She was 26 anyways. She had limited value. Do you recall what you stated to Officer Otterer to have him elicit that response?
Well, there was remarking on how the city is going to have to pay out a ton of money to the family in this tragic situation. And then how can the city, lawyers in general, speaking and negotiating on the city's behalf with the family, how do you put a price tag on human life? And that was the crux of the conversation.
Okay. So you don't believe that any of the laughing was making light of the situation or laughing at the fact that somebody had died?
I think without context, just hearing the audio, which was unfortunately captured in a private phone call, you could have that as a reasonable takeaway. Police officers, we deal with tragedy almost on a daily basis. And we're human beings just like the next person. But we have to process these in a manner that allows us to go to that next tragic event. And humor and sarcasm is used for us as a a coping mechanism.
In response to the events, the Seattle Police Department announced on September 28, 2023, that Officer Daniel Otterer would be reassigned to a non-operational position. Records show that over his 12 years on the police force, he had been investigated dozens of times for various incidents. The victim, Janavi Kandula, was 23 years old and a graduate student when she met her tragic death on Dexter Street. In September of 2023, Northeastern University in Washington elected to award their mourned student a posthumous degree. The King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office is currently conducting a criminal review of the crash.